All right, welcome to our Unit 10 review or relearning. If you need to do a note sheet, please make sure you do so. We're going to start with our first form, which is vertex form. Why are you not writing? Oh, technical difficulties here. Come on, buddy. And we know this is vertex form because it has a squared and it has the parentheses. We don't know the y-intercept, but from vertex form we know it's positive 3 and 5. And therefore we know the axis of symmetry is the x-coordinate of the vertex. So it's going to be x equals 3. So far we know the vertex is at 3, 5. Come on. And we know the axis of symmetry is at x equals 3. So that's the start of our parabola. To find the y-intercept, we need to convert it to general form. To do so, we're going to start by expanding x minus 3 squared. So x minus 3 squared is just x minus 3x minus 3. So we get x squared, negative 3x, negative 3x, and 9. So far I have x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right, and then I don't have anything in front, but I still have the plus 5 outside. So my final general form is x squared minus 6x plus 14. And what that tells us now is that the y-intercept is right here at 14. So our y-intercept, you can either write 14 or it's 0, 14. And then I can go to my graph and draw it in. I'm going to put it way up there at 14. And there's always a matching point over here. So when I'm sketching it, I can just make it look like that. So that's vertex form. The next form we're going to go over is factored form. So factored form, we can always tell the roots or also the x-intercepts. And we always have to change the sign. So it's going to be positive 5, 0. And the other one's going to be negative 2, 0. So I can go ahead and start making my sketch. 3, 4, 5. The first one's at 5. Second one's at negative 2. We don't know the y-intercept yet, but the next thing we need to find is the axis of symmetry, which is the middle. So I'm going to start crossing out till I find the middle. And I notice it's in between 1 and 2, so it's at 1.5. And then that also tells us the x-coordinate of the vertex is 1.5. So once we find the vertex, the x-coordinate, we're going to go to our equation and plug it in. Get my thing to work. So we're going to do 3 times 1.5 minus 5 times 1.5 plus 2. So that's 3 times negative 3.5 times 3.5. When I do that, I'll use my calculator here. 3 times negative 3.5 times 3.5 gives me a y-coordinate of negative 36.75. So my vertex is going to be way down here at negative 36.75. And I can make my sketch already. The only thing I'm missing now is that y-intercept. So again, to find the y-intercept, we always want to convert to general form. So to convert, we're going to start with our box. Wow, that's a terrible box. And we're going to do x minus 5 and x plus 2. So I get x squared, negative 5x, 2x, negative 10. So I get x squared minus 3x because I add these two together, minus 10. I'm not done yet. I can't forget that there was a 3 in front originally. So my final general form is 3x squared minus 9x minus 30. And what I now know from general form is that the y-intercept is at negative 30. So you can either write just negative 30 or 0, negative 30. So that is factored form. Our last form then is general form. All right, and the general form, what we know right away is the y-intercept. It's the last term. So I know from general form that the y-intercept is 0, 9. I have to actually use a formula to find the axis of symmetry. And the formula is negative b over 2a. And to find your a, b, and c, it's just your first number, your second number, and your third number. So my b value is 8. So I write negative 8 over 2 times a, which is negative 2. So I get negative 8 over negative 4, which is now 2. So what that means is my axis of symmetry is right here at 2, if I can draw a straight line. And what I always know when I know the axis of symmetry is I know the x-coordinate of the vertex. So these should always match. And when I know x, I can always go to my equation and plug it in. So I'm going to go to my equation and plug 2 in for the x's. And again, if you want to type it straight into your calculator, you can. So it's negative 2 parenthesis 2 squared plus 8 parenthesis 2 plus 9. And I get 17 for my vertex. So 217. So we'll just put it right up here, 217. And my y-intercept is at 9. And again, there's always a matching point over here. So I can sketch it in just based on knowing that. Right, and the last two types you'll see then is writing the equations, but you have to solve for the stretch factor in front. It's important to note that this one has a stretch factor of negative 2, and I can tell that I did it right then because my graph is opening upside down. Right, so the next two will be figuring out which form and solving for a. So this one tells us we have the x-intercepts, which means I'm going to be using factored form. So I'm going to write x minus 5 because I use the opposite sign, and x plus 3. And then I take this point, which this is a bad point, so ignore that. We're going to put the point 0, 2. So I take my point 0, 2. 0 is the x, 2 is the y. So I'm going to plug in 2 for y, 0 for x. So I get 2 equals a times negative 5. Whoopsie. Times 3. So I get 2 equals a times negative 15. And I divide. And my a value is negative 2/15. Right, so that's the first example, factored form. The second example you're going to do is vertex form. And remember, vertex form is the x minus h squared form. So it's x minus 2 because the inside is always the opposite, and minus 4 because it's going down 4. So it's going right 2, down 4. And whenever I plot my vertex, I should always draw the axis of symmetry in. I have a y-intercept of negative 12, which is the point 0, negative 12. So I'm going to take 0 and plug it in for x and negative 12 for y. So it's going to read negative 12 equals a times 0 minus 2 squared minus 4. To solve, I just go through my normal steps. So I'm going to add the 4 over. I get negative 8 equals a. I want to calculate the parentheses. So that's negative 2 squared, which is 4. And then I divide. And I get a equals negative 2. Right? And that is how we would solve for a when we are in vertex form. So please watch the video again if you need any more help. Please make sure you take notes as you go and have a wonderful day.